Our focus today is on the tips of drawing diagrams of reflected waves. Just like rays, waves are reflected more or less the same way as waves, only that the representation diagrammatically is what changes. I want us to know that there are two types of waves. We have the plane waves that are represented by straight lines, and we have concentric waves that are represented by curves. They can either be convex or concave shaped. To begin with, let us see how plane waves incident at an angle are reflected. Now, when we're talking about plane waves, they normally follow the first law of reflection that says that the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. So if we represent it grammatically, it will be represented in this particular manner. Now, when waves are incident perpendicularly to the surface, then there are two important factors to be considered when we want to draw the reflected waves. The first factor is the nature of the wave. When we talk about nature, we're either talking about plane waves or concentric waves. The second factor to consider is the shape of the reflecting surface. Is the reflecting surface flat or is it a curve? Now, these two factors already mentioned, they affect how we draw reflected waves in this particular manner. The region that meets the surface of reflection first will be reflected ahead of the other regions that will be reflected later. And when this particular wave meet the surface at the same time, then all the regions will be reflected at the same time, and therefore the reflected waves will definitely be plane waves. Now, if we consider this particular wave and we want to talk about three regions, we have region A, region B, and region C. And of course, the plane of surface, the plane of reflection is a plane surface, or it is a flat surface. Now, if this particular wave is to move towards the reflecting surface, then definitely the region B will meet the surface first because it is ahead of A and C, and therefore it will be reflected ahead of A and C. Let us see how it will look like. Now, in the reflected wave, you will realize that since B was ahead of A and C, then the shape of the reflected wave will be the opposite of the incident wave. Why? Because here now, the reflected wave B now curves first before A and C, as shown in this particular diagram. Now let us check an example of diagrams of reflected waves. I want us to note that if this particular wave is meeting the surface at the same time, then all the regions of this particular wave will be reflected at the same time, and therefore the reflected wave will be a plane wave.